Here in Early Learning at Orange Unified, we are proud to provide our youngest learners a strong foundation. That's why I love our preschool program. It gives our students that love for learning and allows them to start developing their social-emotional skills.
They're interacting with other kids. They're not at home where it's like some of them don't have siblings. So they come to school to learn how to share and learn how to problem solve. It's more about socially and emotionally, how to make friends, how to solve problems, critical thinking. As you can see, the classroom is set up where they can explore, and they can learn and discover. Our preschools are centered on play-based learning, so it's not like heavily structured and, assignments and worksheets, which is what they're gonna get, later on in life. And so we like to really foster our program into having fun with our children.
Our children spend so much of their childhood in school. It's so important for them to have built that foundation to prepare them for their long educational career that's coming, and that all starts here with preschool.
I think it's the best idea to get them introduced right away because it gives your child an opportunity to grow with everyone their own age.
It's nice for them to learn how to make those connections with other kids and starting to learn how to talk to other kids and approach them and say, do you want to play with me? And learn that sometimes they want to play, sometimes they don't.
As a parent and as a teacher, I love to see my child want to go to school and be happy and want to play with their friends. And to be able to give that gift to students at such a young age, you're not losing anything, but you're gaining so much more.
We are here to help you navigate the enrollment process and answer any questions you may have. Call us today to get your child started on their educational journey.
Here at Yorba, we take pride in our community. We strive to ensure that all students are scholars, leaders, and champions.
We teach and lead with love. We are Yorba, we are family.
The teachers here care. They care for the students, and you'll see that our rooms are open at lunch. The kids know that they can come and ask for help, and we're there for them.
They know that they have a place here to come and hang out and create and be who they are. What we're doing here, I think, is super special.
The kids are sweet, the parents are nice, the staff and the teachers have been engaging. I couldn't ask for anybody better to teach the kids. It's the only junior high in Orange Unified School District that has a dual immersion program in Spanish.
Que tienen definitivamente pues una gran ventaja a otras escuelas de que tengan aquí a los maestros que hablen dos idiomas, inglés y español.
Muy buena escuela, la recomiendo porque es excelente, los maestros, el personal, se siente uno como en casa, tanto los niños como nosotros los padres.
Their staff really makes a difference. The effort they put into it, the love that they have for what they do, it shows in their kids, it shows in the community they're building here.
One thing I love about Yorba is the teachers that make sure the whole class gets it. Like if you don't understand like a thing like that, really come over and help you to really make sure you get it. Like they won't move on until you get it.
They really care about you here. Teachers here, they care about your experience and how you learn, and they'll give you different ways to learn your subject.
Excited to finally host our inaugural Disney musical, Finding Nemo. Our teachers, our staff, our cast have been hard at work since October, and we are so proud and so excited to finally see the finished product tonight.
I'm so excited here to start our very first day at Disney Musicals. We have all of our kids excited to perform, all of our parents ready to enjoy the performance, and it's just going to be an exciting day full of magic and dreams.
And a very special thank you to Mrs. Tara Roberts, who, by the way, is also our OUSD Teacher of the Year. She truly, truly has been the heart of this entire project and has dedicated so many hours to the production. We are so blessed to have her as part of our staff here at Lamson.
I'm very happy to be leading this program, and my teachers that are helping me are just a true blessing.
For you? You like that one? Better?
Mr. Memo is so lovely, so friendly, and he just always goes out of his way to make my life easier and to be so helpful. A gentleman and a hard worker, so lucky to work with him.
He always does everything with a smile. He's wonderful, and the kids love him, the staff loves him, and, you know, we really appreciate all his hard work.
I've known Mr. Memo for a number of years, and he is a joy to have all the time.
I would like to invite the fantastic Mr. Memo back up here with me.
You have been selected as the Employee of the Year.
What makes him special is like there's only one of him, and he's just the best.
Mr. Memo helps me with Spanish lessons and also helps the house be clean. Mr. Memo is funny, kind, and very respectful. He's kind and he's everyone's friend, and he loves everybody.
Thank you so much for this surprise. A big surprise for me is you guys give it to me. I really appreciate that. Thank you for Orange Unified. I don't have any words to say it, but thank you very much.
Today, we had the pleasure and honor of inviting State Superintendent Tony Thurmond to our school. We welcome him and prepare for him to come because we are so proud of all of the things that we have to offer here at Jordan.
I've been coming to Jordan Academy for 6 years for Read Across America Day, and we are so proud of you.
We had a wonderful assembly for him, and he got to speak to all of our students. He read our students a story. Having Tony Thurmond was wonderful. It was so impactful, so meaningful. His words to our students really were inspiring, and it's just wonderful to have state leadership come out to our schools and encourage us in what we're doing every day here at Jordan.
Now remember, when you become famous, I'm gonna want your autograph, okay? Don't forget me, okay? Great job, great job, great job.
Stand up like this.
Oh, wow.
We're doing it. Push.
The first to go and the last, you matter.
Good evening. I call this March 26, 2026 Board of Education Work Study Meeting to order at 5:07 p.m. We want to establish the quorum. So, Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Thank you so much. Please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we will have the adoption of the agenda. May I please have a motion? It's been moved by Trustee Pelley, seconded by Trustee Thomas. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we will deviate ever so slightly from our normal protocol with regards to public comment. Public comment is our second item on the agenda. However, because we have children in the audience today that I am believing they're going to come up and possibly speak to us, we're going to move this one time in order to adjust. Normally, our protocol is to have the presentation and then have the responses afterward. This particular time, we will have all of the public comments first, and then we will have the presentations. And if that's agreeable, Madam Clerk, we'll start with 3B.
Okay, we have 3 for 3B. And first up is Valentina Tapias. Right? That's exciting.
Hello, Superintendent Menares and board members. My name is Valentina Tapias. I go to 6th grade at... Hello, Superintendent Menares and board members. My name is Valentina Tapias. I'm in 6th grade at Levita Elementary, and I'm here to talk about the summer enrichment programs. Last year, over the summer, I went to the CARES program over the summer. We had field trips, like going to a water park, and we had a lot of fun activities. I also had the chance to participate at the Santiago Canyon College water polo with my older brother. We had a lot of fun, and I hope ELOP is able to continue the program this year. Thank you, and good night.
Great job. Next, we have Rebecca Torres. You can pull that all the way down. There you go.
Hi, my name is Rebecca. I do the YMCA summer camp programs. They have fun field trips and projects. I want the field trips back. Thank you very much.
All right, and the last one is Josephine Manuela Hall.
Hi, I'm Josephine Manuela Hall, and I'm in 1st grade at Jordan Academy. My favorite clubs are soccer, running club, Flocorico, Bio-Nerds, arts and crafts, and breakdancing. The changes I want to see is clubs to clean up in older clubs for them to clean up in my class. I would like to see new clubs like basketball and level 2 break dance for kids that did level 1 and signing club. Summer clubs are important because they give us a lot of experience. We can explore new things even if they are hard. We get to be with our friends. Even though I'm not with my friends in Blue Group, this is my moment to be with them. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, guys. Great job, all 3 of you. Okay. Whoops, I just grabbed the wrong stack. We have 3 for 3A, starting with Cheryl Conley.
Hi. Good afternoon, Dr. Banyaras, board members. Closer to the mic. Thank you. Good afternoon. So I was here last year for the June 2025 discussion about the consolidation of the schools. And I spoke that last time. And I found out about this meeting at 3:30 p.m. and made sure I made it just to find out. I am a mom of 2 kids that go to Imperial Elementary School. My daughter is in 5th grade. She is in the special ed program. And my son is in 3rd grade. He's in the gen ed program. They've been thriving there. We are originally, I guess our homeschool would be Running Springs, but my daughter goes to Imperial because they have a great mild mod program. And she has changed. I mean, for the better, and slowly but surely, and I believe it's because of all the teachers that she's had and the support that she's had at Imperial Elementary School. I am a lawyer by trade, and I advocate for my daughter every single day. I do not like public speaking. I'm not that type of lawyer. I am the behind-the-scenes writer lawyer, but I'm not comfortable right now, but I will advocate for my school. Whatever is decided, I know it's not within my powers, but I want you guys, I want everyone here to hear our voice. We weren't able to rally the community for this one because I just found out so late, but that's besides the point. I just wanted to give you a list of questions to consider because I believe I'm at a severe disadvantage from not even knowing the presentation. So I saw on slide 2 with a PDF that there was a timeline and the 3rd column said the future, and I just wanted to figure out what that means, 2027 onwards. And if there has been a decision, I know the proposal last year was to shut down Imperial Elementary and consolidate with Crescent. I was wondering if that is still in place, and if so, if there's an equity impact analysis. And I want to know the justifications for the decision. What are the projected net savings, the data points used to make the decision, the enrollment trends, the facility age and repair costs, the impact of the students in special ed and will be replicated at Crescent. And I just want you to know that they greenlit the apartment development in Anaheim Hills Festival. So there's going to be an influx of a population coming in. So if you shut down a school, will you reopen to school because of the growing population? So I just wanted to make sure that those things were considered when making these decisions. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lee Lance.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. I've been here before on the previous meetings, and I pretty much have the same message, but I just want you to know Prospect is still an amazing school, and we're not against the consolidation. We just really hope that we're able to bring Esplanade to us. There are a lot of great reasons that I've mentioned before. I just want to mention them to remind you. We've got just a great staff. We've got a really great new principal. We've got a large open campus, an accessible parking lot. Anyway, and that's pretty much it. But I'm just here to say yay for Prospect. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Robin Reichelt.
I am waiting with bated breath to see this 3A presentation. Particularly, I would like an update on how the Resource Optimization Coalition is interacting with the Asset Management Committee regarding the potential sale of the Levita playing fields. Also, I noticed on the timeline, they've laid out the approximate length of time for each step on the second to the last page. Some dates to go with that would also be great. Now, my understanding is that our 7-Eleven committee's charter ends around November of this year because they're only impaneled for 2 years. After reading this, I don't think that the 7-Eleven committee is going to have enough information to make a decision. So I would like to know how this interaction is happening between the ROC and the 7-Eleven committee and what the next steps are. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much. Now I will turn our work study session, specifically 3A, over to our superintendent, Dr. Menares, who will be going over the Resource Optimization Coalition update.
All right. Am I close enough? Yes? All right, so good evening. Tonight we are here with my distinguished guests to share where we are with the Resource Optimization Coalition. So I will flip to find the correct names. Actually, it's the last names I have to make sure. So with me, to my left, I have Michael Schmidt. Next to Michael, Jolene Lang, I did it right, and then finally Kimberly Buchan. They are our tri-chairs that were selected with the coalition, and they will be presenting with me and some other staff this evening. So tonight what you're going to hear is the process by which we have engaged with the coalition starting in September and where we're at. There is no action for the board to take this evening. This is your opportunity to ask clarifying questions, and then we will bring something forward for the board for action the following, at the April meeting. And for those who just spoke, there is no recommendation for any school closure for this coming school year. Not any of the schools that have been mentioned in the past. So I hope that helps you to feel a little more comfortable with tonight's presentation. Just know nothing as we move forward. But what we will do tonight, are on the following. We're going to provide the roadmap of the resource optimization transition, how we got to where we are right now. Summarize the collaborative work of what we like to refer to as the ROC, Resource Optimization Coalition. Present the finalized draft guiding principles. So it is these draft guiding principles that we would gather feedback from you on. The tri-chairs will share with you how we got there and what the big ideas mean. We'll gather feedback from you as necessary, and then that's what we would be bringing back for approval next board meeting. Okay, it's the guiding principles. In addition to the guiding principles, we have some data points that we really spent a lot of time, not specifically the data that you're going to look at tonight, but when the board gives direction to start looking at potential any building to close, what data should we be looking at? So that's what we will be sharing with you tonight. And we spent a lot of time on this. And there was some learning as a result of it that they will share with you as well. And so that's what we're calling this ranking criteria. And then we'll close up with some next steps. Okay? So this is just, again, a reset of where we've been, really starting with the June 18th board meeting that, what was her name? Ms. Conley referenced. As you know, I was not at that board meeting, but I did listen to it on my commute back from Massachusetts, and in that there was a lot of conversation. And so when I came on board July 1, what was decided was let's pump the brakes a little bit as it relates to school closures, and let's just go back a little and find out what's going on. So starting in the fall, we started with an after-action review, which was a really good opportunity for the coalition to really share what took place and what learnings we had, what took place last school year, what we learned from that and what we can do moving forward, so our next steps. That gave us as staff guidance on what would be helpful for this coalition as we move forward through this year. So there was this opportunity to listen and learn. We did that through after action. After that, then we took the information we got from them and we put them into practice. So having chairs identified was one of the outcomes. Receiving the information ahead of time was one of the outcomes. Having follow-up steps that we agreed to were part of the outcomes. A lot of it had to do with around communication, was what was really important to the team, and so we really did our best to adhere to that. So we've had some meetings, and they'll talk about what that looks like. The future then would be, once these guiding principles are adopted, we'll have, how do we take this information and put it into practice and really create the destination district that we know Orange can and will be in the future, one that reflects the board why statement, which we'll go into momentarily, offering a variety of programs, including but not limited to STEAM, VAPA, innovation programs, our athletics. This past week, and I know some you were all at different times at Chapman listening to our talented scholars and their music. We just have so many wonderful things. How do we continue to grow that and to be the district of destination that we so desire? So as part of the work, you'll recall that we spoke in varying manners amongst each other in one-on-one and in different conversations, and I asked you to give me why do you want this resource optimization to happen? And that was a big ask from the committee, or what we renamed the coalition. They wanted to be clear what their job was, and they wanted to be super clear that what they were doing was in alignment with what you desired as a governing board. And so you gave me information. I took it and used my friend Gemini and she synthesized it for me, and then looked at it. Did this make sense? Did it reflect what I saw in each one on the information you all gave me? And this was your why statement. You'll recall that you adopted this as a board in November of 2025. So we were able then to take this to the committee, and I think we met in January after we had the board. Does that sound right? And in this, we spent some time going into what does this all mean, and how do we attach what the why means to potential data sets that we might need to look at, right? But also, how does that guide the guiding principles? So we would go back and forth between understanding this, getting shared understanding about that as a team, and then gathering information about, all right, so what are the implications for this coalition based off of what you said as a board that you're looking for. With that, I'm going to turn this over to our committee team, or our tri-chairs. I'm the one who's doing this, or yes? I'm hitting this, but okay, then you're on.
We practice well in advance on all this. So basically, we took all of the work that we did and created, and with your the why statement, to create the guiding principles. I thought I could hear myself. Ensure equitable access to academic excellence and education programs, keeping the programs in the district that work and bringing them to all the campuses. Maintain safe, modern facilities and optimize space utilization. Clean buildings. Ensure long-term financial sustainability through strategic efficiencies. Fiscal management. Minimize disruption through transparent community engagement. Getting into the community.
The first of these points, ensuring equitable access to academic excellence and educational programs, was very important to us to preserve what we have in Orange and grow it. So if in the future a school did have to close, they were worried about a special education program or something that was there, we would make sure that that program would be accounted for and made the equal, or if but not better, at another location. Any future closures will be making what we have an improvement, not taking away from what's already there. adding academic choice, extracurricular programs available in all neighborhoods. Maintaining safe, modern facilities and optimizing space utilization. So this is something that came up a lot, especially from the staff and principals on our committee, is making sure that we are in the 21st century and not, our classrooms aren't necessarily there. The amount of technology and everything we have, looking at infrastructure and things like that were really important. Looking at how the classrooms can be utilized under their modern usage with computers and everything else was something that was really important. So maintaining the safe and modernized facilities was something that we thought the board should look at.
All right. Thirdly, we want to ensure long-term financial sustainability through strategic efficiency by, looking at the attendance projections and how it's changed in the past 10 years and how it's expected to change in the future 10, ensuring that we are planning ahead and planning upstream rather than waiting until it's too late and we have, classes full of combos and not enough resources at our schools. So we want to make sure that we're planning ahead and not waiting too late. Just want to be ahead of the game on that. And I think we're in a great financial situation as a district, and we just want to make sure that we're planning ahead to maintain that. And then lastly, we want to minimize disruption through transparent community engagement. And throughout this process, that's one thing that has become very clear is that every school has, something very special, which makes these decisions extremely difficult and passionate. And so that's why they must be handled with transparency. We also ask that you consider minimizing day-to-day disruption by carefully considering school locations, transportation, and the impacts on family routines in specific neighborhoods. And as options are narrowed, school communities, we ask that school communities have a voice. As you narrow down, it's important that insights that might have been missed through our research or misunderstood, that those communities have an opportunity before they're narrowed completely down. There will undoubtedly be feelings of sadness when a school site is determined to be closed or consolidated. So it's essential that our process is clear so that families understand how and why these decisions were made. Through our process, the first go around, we realized that you can't just put a data set into a spreadsheet and make a decision. There's so many outliers and things to consider. But we just want to make sure that our community understands why, so they're at peace with the decision and can gain some understanding. And then also we want to understand what our students are going to gain in return. This isn't just, we're closing as a reactive measure. We're wanting to be able to build upon our district and, make us a destination district. And then finally, as school sites are determined to be closed or consolidated, we ask that, the things that are special at each school, like, were mentioned before, continue on. They shouldn't just close with a school site. Programs like robotics and running clubs, they should be carried on to the new school or combined. Things like parents and community programs like PTAs. PTAs should combine, not just, you go to a new school, so you start over. It would be great if, those school traditions and school communities could have some opportunity to maintain throughout this process. So that we're not losing what is working at our schools, but that we're coming together to build something stronger.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Yuri Calderon, your interim assistant superintendent for business. And I just want to say that this incredibly thoughtful process and committee gave us these guiding principles so that staff could be, as it makes decisions in the future, could be guided by the principles and the concepts that were the guided by the community, given to us by the community. And so we worked really hard to develop, as next steps, some data points so that we could look at how these guiding principles would impact our decision making. And so I'm going to hand it off to Rob Murray, who is with King Consulting, and Chris Keeler, who's with Orange Unified, and to talk a little bit about how the data points and what factors we would be looking at under these guiding principles.
Hi. Good evening, board. So I'm Rob Murray with King Consulting, and have just been assisting with this process with the ROC in terms of providing some context and assembling some data. And there's a reason that we've transitioned to this slide that just lists the different columns that were on that very tiny table that you saw on the last slide, because you may have gotten an inkling just from even seeing the small version of it. When you're looking at every single elementary school in the district, which, by the way, were anonymously randomized with just a letter code for each one, but it's an overwhelming amount of data. But I've gone through this process, or at least processes roughly similar to this, with quite a few other school districts. And once we get to a point where, as we said, we've narrowed down, where we're looking at some individual data, this is the kind of information that tends to become very useful. But it's a little bit of kind of an inverse thing. The more schools you have, the less data that you want early on, just because it very quickly gets very overwhelming. And as you narrow down to fewer schools, that's when you can unpack it and start looking at more of those data points. But what we settled on with the ROC is all the things that are on your screen. I won't necessarily read them all out to you, but a lot of it has to do with a facilities and room use component of trying to nail down just what the assets from a classroom and loading potential are at different school sites, combined with current and projected enrollment data. The ROC had a whole presentation on kind of sort of how we can have confidence in those enrollment trends, what leads us to say where we think the enrollment's going to be 5 and then 10 years from now, and how we account for that in our planning. Looking at the extent to which we know as an open enrollment district, obviously, the enrollment at a school does not necessarily indicate the neighborhood population around that school, so bringing the transfers into it, and then, of course, the actual needs of school sites in terms of what your facility master plan had identified, and to some extent, the availability of access to state funding to help facilitate some of that work. And just with that, it's a lot. And of course, there were conversations around all kinds of other things that could be useful. And a lot of that answer is almost anything you bring up, is this an option to look at? Of course, it's an option. But every time you say yes to that, it leads to more and more and more things on that giant sheet that you saw. And so again, at this point, we are at the high level guiding principles, making sure that any data decisions that we make support what we've agreed are the goals. But at the same time, we want to start, and that's why this is really important that we've done this with the ROC, is starting the process. I also have worked in a couple of public school districts, and what's been really cool seeing here is they're kind of uniquely getting a lot of information compiled in one place that doesn't always live together. You have some departments that are just not habituated to necessarily always talk to each other and share things, and that includes looping in site leadership. And we're just getting all of this in one place, vetting it kind of through a high level and on the ground level. And it's going to be really cool, especially because this is a living resource. We're going to update this again, kind of through the summer with some things, certainly in the fall with new enrollments, new room uses, and kind of keeping not just that living current version, but also being able to look back and reference and how things have changed over time. This is going to be really powerful. That said, we're not necessarily, again, speaking to some of what we heard earlier, making decisions right now, but rather defining these are the things we think are going to be useful to help make decisions once we are relying on those guiding principles to help hone in on maybe some side-by-side comparisons. So I think that's what we have to speak to this. Chris, did you have anything else to add?
Yes, good evening, board members and trustees. So it is much more of a, this is just a place to start, right? When we originally met with the committee, there were 50 plus columns of data. How many combo classes at that school? How many bus riders do we have? And those are all great facts. But I think at this level, we want kind of a wider thing. And then once we kind of, look at some of the schools and narrow it down, we can kind of expand out that data set where, it may not be, as important at this point to look at all that stuff. So the idea was like, what do we really need? What is truly important? What fits in those guiding principles to kind of help us look and kind of narrow the scope? And then as we do that, we'll expand out to more and more detail, because then you get into, how do the cars come in and out? What do the parking lots look like? And you can see we did put in some of those things like the cost of the facility master plan needs and the state funding eligibility, because those come into really high play, but kind of later, right? Once, you're not necessarily at this point, but you want to be able to see them, but we can go way more into detail as we go. So this was just our idea of a starting point to look at some numbers without overwhelming everybody with the world's largest spreadsheet.
And I think that also the beauty is that it gives staff the ability and the flexibility to come up with alternatives to just closing schools or consolidating schools. There may be other alternatives that we could look at that could be guided by those guiding principles and the data that you have before you.
I just wanted to say one thing they touched upon that really made a difference in this round is this is data gathered with inclusion of the site facilities themselves. And so instead of just being numbers on paper, these are more accurate representations of what are at the actual schools and what those schools need now, which is, I think, a much better information than just looking at the pure numbers that came from a data point earlier.
Okay, so you may be thinking, all right, so then how does this all work? So that's what this slide is about. This is what we would do when the board says, based off of the data that is being provided to you, meaning based off of our budget, based off of our enrollment, Rachel, it's time to start looking at potential school closures. Then you need to know what that process would look like. So you would want the direct, the final direction from you. Find us some schools. This is what we would do from there. We would go through phases, and we did initially have actual months in here, but we said, when you look at that, then it implies that we are moving forward, and we are preparing for when it's time. So we chose not to have the actual months in there, but instead the time span, which gives you an idea of how much time it would take for us to be ready to close any school in the future. So phase one is where we're at right now, which is the guiding principle adoption and the data overlay. So that's what was just described to you. And I do want to reiterate the amount of data that they laugh because they know that the coalition kept asking for. We'd give it to them, and then it was actually too much. And so they would start running down unintentionally a rabbit hole, and then it became not even useful anymore. And so not until I think the last time where we were together where it was like, look, data is just to start to put a flashlight on something. And then once we identify potentials, then we're still going to go deeper, and we're going to go deeper, and we're going to go deeper. I think that may have helped everyone to realize, oh, we don't have to, as a coalition, have all this data in front of us right now. We can stay at a higher elevation and instead give the parameters for the board to consider. So that's where we're at for phase one. Phase two, that would take place once you as a governing board say, it's time for us to identify some schools. So then the scenario modeling would actually be cabinet using the guiding principles and using the data points to then come with some potential school names. Then from there, and this was really important to the Resource Optimization Coalition, we would then take those names and the data and all of that back to the coalition. So they would, one, it provides transparency, right? And it continues to build the confidence. But it takes the responsibility of identifying these schools off of the coalition. Instead, it gives them the rationale behind it and gives them the language. And they then also can ask us questions and help us to think about things that we may not have thought about. So this would be an iterative step. but it's a really important one. Once that was done, then we would bring that, God bless you, we would bring a presentation to the board for consideration. That would have identified school names on it. That would explain why these schools, that would explain the feedback that we got from resource optimization, and answer questions from you. From there, then we would go directly to the schools that would be impacted. And do a very similar process that we would do with the resource optimization. Why my school? Well, what is it about my school that's being addressed, why are we being targeted, right? But also, where would we go? What would we get as a result of that? And what we are hearing from the community. If for some reason it's my school, how is the other school going to be better for me and my child? And so we would want to do that on a much more smaller scale with the families that would be impacted. So we would spend, you can see, 2 to 3 months in that space, holding things like, large meetings at the school itself, not at the district office. We'd be going to the schools, we'd be talking with the families, we'd work through the process with them. We would then come back to you with a final recommendation and some requests for board action. That's 2 to 3 months, so you can see this is not something you do overnight. It's a very lengthy process. And then we would, because once schools are identified and the board takes action on that, there's a whole nother process. I've already spoken with other superintendents in other districts about then the transition of actually closing and moving families. And that whole implementation will need a lot of planning and follow through. That's how we continue to earn credibility with the community and trust. So those would be the steps that we would take over a year's process to make sure that this rolls out in a way that it's not going to be easy, and people will be upset by it. We have to be sure that what comes out of it is much better than the emotion that's going to be attached to it. So I'm going to stop there because I think the next slide is discussion, and we are very much eager to hear your questions and what feedback you have for us.
So let me deviate for a moment, and I want to say, our Ms. Conley, are your questions at this moment, from what you asked, have those been satisfied at this point, or is it something where you feel a bit more at peace with regards to the direction?
I think at this point it's pretty vague. I was going to say, I think at this point, it's still a plan, right? So my questions are useless if I just ask and there is no actual decision being made. So I appreciate asking me that, but I believe what they stated was an overall impact analysis of what's going to happen. And from my understanding, it's for 9 to 15 months. That's kind of the projected timeline. So that's been answered. But right now, it's a wait and see. So hopefully in the future board meetings, I'll have more information to ask the correct questions. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Please, go right ahead.
I think, when we had spoken before, and I'm not sure what's happening in the future exactly, but the idea was that, programs like that you were referring to wouldn't necessarily just be scattered throughout the district. It's that if a different, building was chosen for the program, that it would be moved, the teachers would follow, the students would follow, like their community, we would try. Of course, it's an open district, so people can choose to go where they want, but it would be best efforts to keep programs that are really successful and people are thriving in, to continue those. So you might just have a different surroundings, but it would still be,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think what happened before was the proposal was to consolidate with Crescent, and Crescent already has 800 students, and we're 300 students. So my question is is whether the special ed program will, the same, I guess, ratio and all of that will follow. And so those are can't be answered right now,
Right.
but I appreciate you for.
Yeah, I think
for
the
informing
spirit
me.
of our committee is to ensure that things like that
Yes.
don't happen, you know.
President Glass, may I interrupt for a second?
Yes, please.
I just want to bring to your attention that it's not typical that we would actually bring a speaker up to the dais to ask them questions. And so that kind of goes away from what we usually do. And so I wanted to caution you about that because
I appreciate that. The rationale for that was.
I mean, I love hearing from our speakers. So don't get me wrong. It's
Mhm.
not that. It's just that this is not how we typically.
I agree.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. That feedback's important. The reason why that happened was because we changed the protocol from the beginning. So we moved the public comment first, and then we had the presentation. So the concern that I had was that the
Then
question,
there would be an opportunity for the speaker to come back at the end to speak?
no,
Oh.
that wouldn't be the protocol
Well,
either.
but this is not, in the olden days, we used to have speakers ahead of time, but we decided that we'll do it afterwards in case they have questions. But I don't think that we should be bringing them back to the podium.
I took the opportunity to do that because I thought it was important for those three individuals to have their voice heard
Right.
immediately afterward. We know that normally we wouldn't do this. And had the children not been here, we wouldn't have had the movement of the public comment at all.
Okay.
And so this would have been the normal protocol. We would have had the presentation.
I just
the
want to
board
make
would have
sure
go-
we stay within the guidelines of what.
I understand. I
Okay.
think this is and I made a mention from the beginning that this was a very different circumstance, and I want to make sure that we remain faithful to our normal protocol. But this was different, and I was just looking at the faces, and I wanted to make sure that they got their answers, their questions answered at that point. And then I was moving now to board comments.
Okay, yeah, because we typically don't have the back and forth with
I agree.
speakers.
I agree.
Okay.
And I know that this is a sensitive topic. I appreciate that. I know that as it was signaled, we could have had a whole house full of people tonight. However, I think as a representative of a particular community in our district, it's important to make sure that she understands so she can develop that information and go back because the methodology is what we've been presented with. And so we're going to open it up to our board colleagues at this point.
Can I just add something, sorry, on that topic too? I totally understand what you're saying. I was going to ask afterwards if they would have a chance to just say, there was something else they would have said normally had they heard the presentation. I think because it's not something we're voting on tonight, that wouldn't probably be appropriate, but I think I'm okay with it, and I appreciate that you did do that, but I totally understand. We don't want to get in the habit
I
of
just
changing
don't want to put our things up. speakers on the spot either when you bring them back.
And they're welcome not to say anything.
Honestly, I mean, it's just, I want to make sure that we are following the.
Sure.
Our process.
No, I get it. I think that was a good thing to do because we kind of threw them off by having them speak first. So anyway,
Well, in the
thank
old
you.
days, we used to have speakers speak first anyways, so
Right.
it was only more of a recent thing that we switched it.
Trustee Vane.
So if I may, I appreciate the action that you've taken with regard to the speaker's trustee class. And now that we have another speaker that might be interested to come up again, I think we should extend that same courtesy to either of you if you would like.
That's correct. So would either of you go right ahead, please?
Okay, I took a look at the demographic trends, and this kind of research is the business that I do, a lot of consumer research, and it's really clear that the size of the pie is getting smaller. That's clear, but that does not mean that our piece of the pie has to get smaller. What I would like to know are why have families not chosen OUSD, given all of the great programs that we have? What are we going to do to bring them back? And in fact, I would like to see us say, okay, we're going to target ways to mitigate this demographic trend. Let's just say for the sake of discussion, it's 15% at this point, a decline. What are we going to do, and based on the timeline, and have an action plan by either December 26 or June of 27, based on your steps, that's how long it would take. What kind of plan can we put together to take that 15% and shave it down to 12? And then the following year, shave it down to 10, then shave it down some more. Again, so just because the pie is getting smaller, I don't believe that our piece of it has to be smaller. I believe in this district and its programs and its diversity and all the strengths that everyone represents on the board every time I watch a meeting or I attend one. So I'm not content to sit here and say, I'm just going to accept this demographic decline and base my future plans on that. I'm going to spend some time and resources trying to figure out how can I slow that decline down first, and then is it even possible for me as a district to reverse that decline? So I think you guys are doing a great job. I know it takes a long time, but I'm not willing to accept that it's inevitable that we'll continue to lose students.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback. Board comments. Trustee Erickson.
Actually, if we can kind of go back a little bit, we actually found out who the speakers were all introduced. You were all introduced, but we actually I don't think that the general public knows you three. I don't know you, Mr. Schmidt, but I know at least with Ms. Lang and Ms. Buchan, you have little kids in the district and you are super active in the district, and I want to thank you for your participation, but also maybe just introduce yourself just a teeny bit so the people watching know who you are, because you're not staff, you're not, we have staff members, we have consultants, we have our superintendent. Y'all are parents, so it'd be just a little bit, if you don't mind, telling the public who you are.
No problem. So yeah, you're right. We're all parents, and the committee is a majority of parents. So I have 2 kids who started in kindergarten at McPherson. One's in 8th grade and one's in 6th. And I've been part of the foundation there since kindergarten. So I was a 7-year president and then just recently turned it over to a new team. So I've been with the district for quite some time. And you've been to the campus plenty of times. You've seen us. But yeah, so I've been here and I lived here, grew up here, and yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Jillian Lang. Unlike almost everybody I see at these board meetings, I'm not from Orange. I did not grow up here. I came from somewhere completely different. So it's kind of nice, I think, sometimes to have that outsider's perspective. I have 2 children, first grade and 4th grade at Villa Park Elementary. That is not our home school, so I also have that perspective of going to a different school than your home school. And I just have been involved with my school's Home and School League, the Legislative Coalition at the district, and as many other things as I possibly can to help the school and the community, and this was just one of them, and I am proud to be able to serve on it.
My name is Kimberly Buchan. I grew up in Iowa. I moved here in 2019 from Seattle. My son, he's over here reading a book. He's in 3rd grade. His name is Ellis. He's in 3rd grade at Linda Vista Elementary, where I have gotten very involved. I'm the PTA president currently in my 2nd year. My husband has, together we've started the robotics club at our school as well. And so, yeah, we've gotten really involved in our community, and we really love it. I'm also on the Measure S oversight committee, so I'm learning a lot there. And then as being part of this coalition, I really enjoyed learning so much about all the schools and what our community has to offer.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure people knew who you are, know how active you all are, and how passionate you are about the district. And the time that you're putting in is really appreciated by all of us. So thank you, thank you. I guess I'll just make a couple of comments. I wanted to just say the whole reason this process is starting, obviously there's the realities of birth rates and demographics, and there's all those realities. And there's the reality that this is a large district from a property standpoint, a geographic standpoint. We're quite large. And our numbers have gone down, and we do sort of start to have to think about these things. But the main mover and impetus for this, for me, and I think for most of my colleagues, is we want it to be a better student experience. At the end of the day, it needs to be a better student experience. And that means better facilities, which we don't have unlimited resources to put into 43 different sites. So we know that if we're going to create a bigger, better school and with a better facility, we may have to consider that consolidation issue. A better experience, we know, comes from when teachers have the ability to interact with each other and work together. And we know that we have schools where there's only one grade at each school. And we want to see what that looks like if there are more resources on a campus for our teachers. Is that going to improve the student experience? Because that is the bottom line. How is that experience going to be? We want to provide as much opportunity as possible. We talk about a district of excellence, and yes, I want a district of opportunity so that we can provide that opportunity on as many campuses as we can. Now, are we going to have the same great program at every campus? No, we can't. But can we make sure that those are accessible to the students that want to take advantage of them? And how do we do that? Do we have to consolidate resources in order to be able to afford that? My big thing, I mean, for me, campus facilities, huge, 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 wanting to make sure that we have the best facilities we can have. So I appreciate everything that you said, and you really come down to that sort of as the bottom line, and that is the driver, is how do we make this the best student experience we can for every single student? And are we spread so thin, or are we going to be spread so thin that we lose that? So that's the opportunity that we're doing here, and I'm just really grateful for all of you. I'm sure I'll have other questions, but for right now, I just want to leave it at that. So thank you.
Any other board comments? Trustee Yamasaki.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our committee members for participating and putting in all the time and effort in supporting our schools. We really appreciate that because I know that there has been many meetings. As you know, OUSD encompasses many municipalities: Anaheim, Orange, Villa Park, Santa Ana, a little bit of Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Tustin, etc. New housing is in the works. As mentioned by one of our speakers, Anaheim just approved this week a development with over 400 units. And I know there's another one that's coming down the line. And of course, we know about the one in Orange with over 1,000 units, houses coming in, and even more. So what I want to know, and maybe this is directed to Dr. Menadas, is there a process that we have to monitor these things actively? Because I feel like we hear it and we just might tell you, or other people might tell you, but I just feel like we need to be on top of the planning department, because Orange is like, there's a lot going on over there. And so we wouldn't want to potentially close a school when all of a sudden we're going to get an influx of people. So I guess it's kind of like we have to monitor it simultaneously. And so I just want to know, like, what is our process for doing that instead of just randomly hearing about it?
You know, Trustee Yamasaki, this is a good question, and one of the few areas in the statutes where there is actually a gap in between what school information we get and what cities do from the perspective of planning. Fortunately, Orange, as with many districts, have filled that gap. We often get what's called the CEQA notice, and that's the process for reviewing the environmental impacts for a particular development. We receive those in the office, and we do monitor, and then we go meet with the planning department to get information about what the housing developments. And so there are a few of them that are even smaller that you probably haven't heard of, that are also projects that are designing.
Off of Catella, I know there's a couple, and another one in Santiago, and so.
So we do monitor those, and as those developments start to get into the phase where they've actually gotten the entitlements, they do come to the district because they have to pay a developer fee, and that fee is the impact, is what we use for the impact of those kids coming into the district. And because we have space, what we do is we use the impact fees to modernize or improve the facilities as those kids are coming in. As you've heard, El Medina is receiving
Right.
some impact fees that will be used to help improve those facilities.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we do monitor that, and we keep track of all the new projects that are coming through.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that.
Sorry, Trustee Martinez-Goodlander.
Thank you again for your presentation. Please relay back our gratitude to the rest of the coalition. One of the questions that I had is in the conversation during the June 19th meeting, we were talking about really absorbing the information of how, like if we were to modernize, like the school that's absorbing the other school, what are the new things? Like what's the list of things that all of the student population would receive? So some of the smaller, I think, anecdotes that we were sharing in terms of like examples are right now, most of our elementary schools share school psychologists, or they share counselors, or different resources that our elementary schools, especially our smaller elementary schools, have to share with another site. So that means that 50% of the time our students aren't being served with their school psychologist because they're at a different site. So this is the list that we had talked about in the June 19th meeting that we would want to have in discussing if we were to consolidate schools, what that would look like for all students of how their student environment would improve. When we look at the roadmap, it was reversed, where first we're looking at potentially narrowing down which sites would be have the potential to be consolidated. And then after we discuss it as a board, then the list of opportunities would be created. So my concern is that parents or students are going to be asking those questions before we narrow it down, as opposed to finding that out afterwards. So is there a way to do it simultaneously where we know if we're consolidating schools that these are like the foundational things that the student would receive by consolidating and being together at one site? And then afterwards, the additional things would be added where we would have space for robotics, or we would have space for all the extra programs that we would want to enhance the learning environment. But are there some of those foundational things that we could offer up front?
Thank you for that question. So yes and yes. We actually spent time talking about what should every school have. I don't recall what we labeled that. I don't know, I was looking, but we using the facilities master plan as part of our guiding documents, because we did look at the specifications that were in there and said, well, every school should have that, but also projecting forward as to what we would want. So we did that through a facilities lens. We did not do that through a personnel lens, which is what I hear you saying. And so prior to going to, so as we start on phase 5, we would go in prepared to really let families know, really. So I have a friend who, she talks about what's in it for me kind of thing. So what would be in it for them? What would be the benefit coming out of that? So not only why your school was selected, but what you and your children would benefit from going to the other school that we will make sure is very robust. So those things will be as part of phase 5.
And
I would also say that, we wanted to add that opportunity in for, the parents that don't have opportunity to attend board meetings or, be on our committee or be privy to this information. And one day they just hear your school's closing and it's a shock. And to also make sure that there's nothing that, we've accidentally missed. So giving the community the opportunity to then, if that does continue to be the decision, hopefully through that process, they'll have the opportunity to be like, oh, bummer, of course, is the first reaction. And then, but realizing what my child will get out of it will hopefully, soften.
reading a little bit into what you were saying, when you were comparing it to the first time that the committee came and presented and they had all of these are the programs that are there. One of the things that we realized going through this is our district is full of amazing schools with amazing and different programs. And you can kind of compare some things, like they all have VAPA, they all have, you know, libraries and stuff like that. But there are so many different individualized programs. If you start looking at it at that level, it becomes impossible to see anything because there is so much overlaid information. So that's why this time around, we kind of tried to pull that back a little bit and just look at like the numbers of rooms that are used for different type of things. And then those programs could be brought into different schools later and added to. But we did kind of change the direction. And the reason for that was because it was great and it felt good to look at it, but it was not informative for decision making.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, I appreciate the facilities part because I think that would be one of the biggest pieces that a lot of families have concern about, especially when they visit their student at their site, that then they see the conditions that their students in a lot. Another event, I guess, of how we hear from families about concerns about their facility is when we have rain or heat waves. And so so for example, my daughter's classroom, their HVAC system broke down and then they moved classrooms. So it's okay to move temporarily if it's being fixed for like a couple days, but now there's a hole in the window and there's a temporary AC unit just to continue instruction. And I totally get that. But I think these are some of the narratives that we need to hear in your coalition of, yes, the room exists and a classroom exists in that room, like a whole class, but what's the condition of that class? Like, do we really have HVAC systems like falling apart? And in addition to when it was refurbished, because if it's not working, then that's the point of clarification that we need to be discussing, not the last time it was renovated.
Right, and I'll say that, like, that's why we, all 28 of us couldn't walk through every school to check out each of these issues. And so that's why we were like, we need to pull it back and then leave it to staff to really do a deeper dive on where we've sort of, narrowed down to. Now let's look at those sorts of things.
And at the same time, that's why we added the master plan as a bullet point criterion to peg against each other.
Colleagues.
Thank you. I'm not going to say too much more because I think my colleagues have said most of it. I wanted to put a big exclamation mark on what Trustee Erickson said, everything she said, because it's really important that this whole process, people understand we're trying to improve our district. We're improving the experience that all of our students have and not just shuttering schools, because you start saying school closure and that's all people hear. And that is such a hard thing. I went through it in my former district and it is not easy. But in that case, we just shuttered a school. We're doing so much more than that, depending on what happens, how many. But just the idea that we're getting so much input from staff and student administrators just on the front end of, what do you use your classrooms for? Because that was a big concern at the beginning. And thank you, Dr. Monares, for the pause and for being very intentional about this, because there's just so much more that we needed to learn, and I think this is a good plan for that. But also just looking at the individual school sites, and every site is so different, but so precious to those people who are there, and they never feel like you can replicate that, and you really can't. But if we can give them something where we are bringing those great programs and traditions along, and bonus, you get a site that's updated and has some of these great things we've talked about, it can really turn this district into something wonderful, more wonderful, and a district of excellence. But I just really appreciate the fact that all the way through, and especially when those schools are kind of identified, that we're going to reach back out and make sure that community has more input, because there are those little nuances and things that you don't know unless you lived at that school. But I just appreciate all of your hard work. You guys are all really busy and active, but it's important that you're doing this, and we thank you so much.
Just to springboard a little bit off of that and not to come back to the public comments, but I think part of the reason that there wasn't like a huge publicity about this meeting is we're not making any major changes. This is just kind of an informational thing. The first round, we were kind of rolling downhill and we were just going faster and faster. And so it kind of information was tumbling in all directions. And this time, I can say from the district level, there's been after meeting communications from after our meetings. We have felt, the last time I know after it was presented to the board, we kind of felt like, wait a minute, that's not necessarily what we had together. We have been in a much more collaborative process where it's been communicated back. Is this what we agreed on moving forward? And if that carries forward, which I definitely foresee it doing with the entire district, this won't be a situation where it's like, I'm just finding out there's a meeting that's making a major change. It'll be like when something happens, there will be communication that's clear coming out in front of everything. We've slowed down and we're taking a much more controlled and thoughtful approach with better communication. So I know that there is some concerns about communication that kind of arose from how it started, but I think we've stepped back and corrected that.
Agreed. Thank you.
I do have a question about the state funding eligibility for those schools that were updated. When are they going to be, when are all of the schools going to be eligible? What's the, I can't remember what the time frame is. Is it 25 years or is it, what's the time frame when another school is going to be eligible?
Okay, so this kind of opens up a Pandora's box
Okay,
of
well, I don't
maybe
wanna
a lot
open
of
a
details, so we're
Pandora's
going to keep
box,
it at
but-
the very, very high level. But
Yeah.
basically, yes. So state school facility program modernization generates eligibility based on portables that are 20 years old or more, permanent facilities that are more than 25 years old. Okay. And also, depending on how active you are, that's one thing, King does not do your state funding, so everything I assembled for this was just what I can see kind of on the public-facing side of the Office of Public School Construction's user site. But if you participated early in the program, which has been around since 1998, so for example, if you did some modernization projects through the SFP in 1999, 2000, 2001, those buildings are turning 25 years since that again, and you get that eligibility back. And
So I
yeah.
guess my question is, you have a school, it's 300 kids, whatever. You then consolidate, and then you want to build some new buildings to accommodate the extra 200 children that are there. Does that change your eligibility, or are you just done because you upgraded 10 years ago? I guess that's my question. Because you're now changing the school, right? There's more students, there's more need.
And that's a great point, because there is a component to the modernization eligibility that also more enrollment gives you more eligibility. So with all the same buildings of all the same ages, if you suddenly have a couple hundred more kids at that site, you will probably have the ability to tap into more modernization funding. That is correct.
Okay, that was my question.
We do track the eligibility by site, and so we have tables that show when eligibility is available and how much at each site. And just as Mr. Murray mentioned, it's based on a loading standard per classroom. So the more kids you have in the classroom, filling those classrooms, the more modernization eligibility you get. The funding formula is based on a per ADA count.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Vane.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and all of it took to gather the data and synthesize your data. I think mine are like comments/questions. I appreciate what Trustee Page had to say, as I was thinking very much about, at each site, what are the things that we would like. So we've been talking about a high school graduate profile. So also in that line, you can envision a profile of each school, and that's something that makes sense to me. I do think that, yes, it's about the student experience, but also it's about the experience of the families and of the staff. And in the phase 5, I would like to see us make an effort to reach out maybe like those little papers that go in people's doors and stuff, because not everyone has children, in the schools at present, right? How do we reach out to the neighborhoods in a way that, isn't necessarily through the schools per se? More like grassroots outreach, if you will, in the different spaces. I think that is important, because even if people don't have children in the district, they care what happens with their tax dollars in the schools in their area. On top of that, and somewhat relatedly, throughout the presentation, I'm a parent in the district and I'm also an educator. I could not stop thinking about class size. So it's hard to make a plan with facilities and without having a very detailed and clear understanding about class size. And so that, I would like to see and be apprised of the conversations between us and our staff, and just understanding what that would look like. Because for me, a big concern that I have is larger schools don't necessarily need to mean larger class sizes. And so that for me is a really important underpinning of all of this. Additionally, I like the language of scenario modeling. However, I understand that it is perhaps more of an art than a science. And one thing I was wondering is, and I know this isn't the job of the board, but how exactly does one come back to the guiding principles in the process of the modeling? There's these different data points. So we have an outcome given the data and we've synthesized it, but then you look at it and say, okay, well, this finding of the data is inconsistent with these principles here, right? So what do you think that process might look like?
So I actually was practicing this we actually practiced it a little bit when we were working, and I was sitting next to one of our parents and going through it. And so what it looked like was taking what the guiding principles say, right? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. He's like my friend on the side. That would get me in trouble in class, I could tell. Yes, he agrees to it. Okay, so what it would look like is using the data first, right? And we tended to go to the part on the spreadsheet that had, what was the last couple of columns? It was the funding eligibility and the transfers in and out. That was a big one also, and then the projected enrollment. So we tended to look there, and then how the classes were used, and then we said, This then led us to, well, how come this school has so many more transfers in and this other school has more transfers out? Then we would plug back into the guiding principle of equitable access to academic excellence in educational programs. And we'd say, we need to go find out what's going on, why people are leaving that school and coming to this school. So using the data to then push back and forth along these guiding principles, to be asking questions and then saying we need to go find out more. Some of the schools, it depends on how many buildings we'll be looking at. If we need to look at a large number, then it will go back and forth. Some will be very obvious that these are the best ones that meet all of these guiding principles very quickly, and the data also supports it. So when we looked at it, we had no school names, as was mentioned. And that was really, people were trying to guess which schools were, and principals were doing that, and because that's what we do. But we'll do the same thing where we won't look at the school names. We'll look at the data and then push the data back into the guiding principles and see if it's working. And if not, then what other pieces of information do we need to find out? That's why we felt like it is something that has to happen with the district staff to do this, because it is so, it can be technical in nature, but we have to be strategic about it at the same time.
Okay. I like the idea of having the tri-chairs, because then there's someone to come back and say, let's be responsible. And so it might behoove the ROC committee or in our staff to just is there one person to just designate, let's always come back to those guiding principles, and make sure that we do our data and our modeling, but those are what we've adopted. And you touched on this just a minute ago with regard to transfers, right? Something to think about, or that I was thinking about, is we have these number of transfers now, but then we change the site or we change the program, those transfers might be different now. And then the parents, so I don't know how to model that or how to think about that, but I would like us to be cognizant that once we go changing things, the transfer scenarios will be different for people. And I hope that we can find a way to consider that. And finally, we had a speaker mention this, and I think you, Dr. Menares, also mentioned this, that there might be some alternatives to closing schools. Maybe you could shed some light on what those might be.
So yes, we've been looking as a staff, and I've had individual conversations with all of you about some options to look at how some of our schools could be reimagined in new ways. Trustee Yamasaki and I had an opportunity last week, and we took a small team to go to an AI summit hosted by Anaheim Union High School District. And they were hosting actually a group of districts, I think there's 16 of them throughout the state, who are the first cohort that is looking at reimagining what the high school experience specifically can and should look like for our youth, but not solely high school, because once you start with high school, then you want to, backward map it. And so I think this is a great opportunity. We think it's a really good opportunity for us to look at how do we think about schooling for our youth for the future, coupling in the graduate profile. So we did have Dr. Whitmer come to the Resource Optimization Coalition and talk about how we're refining the graduate profile for Orange, and really thinking about what we want to offer for the future. We have great pathways in Orange, amazing CTE pathways. How do we deepen those? I've shared with each one of you, I had the privilege when I was in Massachusetts to see how they do pathway work or career planning there. And there's some learning that I brought back that I would like to put into at least one of our schools, our secondary settings, that really gives students an opportunity to be college and career ready upon graduation. I've also heard during my listening and learning tours from a variety of different parents that we should have some programs that allow students to graduate with certificates or certifications that they can go into a high-paying, high caliber, high-paying career that may or may not require a 2-year or a 4-year. The goal for us will be that the child chooses that with the family, and we set them up for whatever that would look like. And so using this as an opportunity, I'm sure you've heard people say never waste a crisis, right? It's always an opportunity. This is an opportunity for Orange to reimagine how we do things. So we're looking at it, a couple of schools in different ways that we want to bring something to the board in the near future. So, Robin, we're going to be talking, because I really like the way that you laid out your view of how things would work, but it was very concise in my head as you were speaking. So we plan on bringing things back to the board. So that was a long-winded kind of roundabout. More to come.
Well, there's then a few processes that need to happen simultaneously, and that education services piece wasn't here, but it is happening.
It is happening simultaneously, as well as the strategic roadmap that we are in the process of continuing to gather more feedback, and we'll be bringing something forward to the board this summer, which is actually another piece that we talked about in the resource optimization team was, is this moving faster than this other work, and how do we bring these things together? And so I described it as parallel play at the time, but at some point we do need to bring it all together. And that is the plan.
And also then the 7-Eleven committee, right? Like all of it will come together.
I think I talked about it as merging freeways at some point, didn't I? I think so.
That's funny. We are the Orange Crush.
And I will say from the committee side, one of the positives that we saw that could come from this is when you're looking at a school and you see the net transfers are really down and start delving into that, the district may be able to see where something that they can add to that school that's already there, that's like already an avid sports school or whatever, but doesn't have a lot of sports programs. Like, how can we take what we have and make it better and get rid of that net transfer is something that this process may enlighten, that not necessarily end in a school closure or consolidation, but end in improvement in the district.
Trustee Thomas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions really, but I would like to also put exclamation points to what Ms. Erickson said. It was excellent, but declining enrollment is a statewide issue. Our superintendent knows it, our cabinet knows it, all 7 of us know it, all staff in this room know it. The only school district that I know of that is actually growing that I continue to read about is Elk Grove in Sacramento. Irvine Unified might be growing very little. But continuing to read about declining enrollment on a daily basis since I came on the board in December of '24, I will say it again, nobody wants to see schools close, positively. But I worked for Anaheim Union High School District for 7 years. Orangeview was one of the most amazing junior high schools. It is now closed, and Western is grades 7 through 12. That is amazing to me. May not be to other people. Everyone has their opinion, of course. Garden Grove Unified had 48,000 students when I was a bus driver there in '04-05, and now we are at 36,000 students. When I attended Orange Unified growing up, we were over 30,000 students. When I joined this board, again, December '24, we were over 25,000 students. We are now under 22,000? It's the only one I don't know offhand, but we're under that now. As much, again, as I don't want to say it, it stinks. But it also is affecting funding. I can't stand to say that either, but I recently read where there were possible funding changes put forth in the state, and they've been now closed down, and they want to continue to fund the same way. But sorry to be probably the most negative up here right now. Not meaning to be, but declining enrollment stinks. And our schools are in dire need. I recently toured, recently went on 2 site visits, one to Handy and one to Fairhaven. The differences in both of those, I won't elaborate, but there were differences. Going to Handy, it's just like Cambridge, 1953. The lights are the same up in the ceiling. The speakers are the same. I know we're updating those too, but we need to continue to move forward. And anyway, I will end there, but I will thank all of you for everything you did. I know it's all volunteer, and you did a fabulous job. And we will have rough decisions ahead, all 7 of us, as well as cabinet bringing them forward. So thank you all.
So I'll be brief and say thank you to the committee under the direction and leadership of Dr. Menares. I view this and the guiding principles as a methodology. So in large part, when we're looking at it from that perspective, we're trying to develop plans, we're trying to develop questions, we're trying to answer those questions. If we're able to answer those questions, then we continue, but it's not a hypothesis. You know, you're trying to just develop information. It's not a null hypothesis. But at the same time, the data that's collected is all in process. And we don't know what we're going to get. So we're trying to figure that out. So I appreciate that mindset. I know when Dr. Menares said it was a crisis, I don't want people at home thinking we're in crisis. What I will say is I think this group is looking at it from the point of view of an opportunity or an investment. And that goes back to what Ms. Reichelt mentioned, the idea of trying to make sure that we have people who are in Orange stay in Orange, draw people into our excellent programs, and continue with that. So don't think of any of this as an investment, more or less an investment. It's not a reduction. It's an investment, not a reduction. So I appreciate this opportunity. The trustworthiness is going to be built as we move through this. I'm looking forward to the data And I'm looking forward to our next meeting so that we can decide on whether or not we're going to move forward with this, because it's still a plan. Okay, so I want to make that clear. Tonight is informational. There was no action taken. So thank you all very much. And what we want to do is take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for our second presentation.
Thank you.
We'll reconvene our meeting now. We'll begin with item 3B, which is our OUSD 2026 summer programs. Dr. Whitmer.
Good evening, President Glass, trustees, and Superintendent Menares. Tonight, our curriculum instruction and expanded learning teams will be presenting the summer programs that will be offered to our students this summer. I hope the students who were here earlier went home and are watching this live stream now. We'll be providing you with an overview of the programs, discussing how the programs support our students and how enrichment opportunities and community partnerships have grown. You'll also hear some details about the schedules related to these opportunities. At this time, I know our speakers have some papers and some notes that they'd like to follow. Would it be okay if we sat up here at the table? All right. Well, I'll introduce Lisa Green, who will speak next.
Good evening, President Glass, Board Trustees, Superintendent Menares, Cabinet, staff, and community. I am Lisa Green, Executive Director of TK-12 Curriculum and Instruction. At the core of our work is a simple but powerful goal: to provide our students with meaningful opportunities to explore, engage, and recover learning through enriching district-supported experiences. These opportunities extend learning beyond the classroom and help students build confidence, curiosity, and connection. We are going to start first with our expanded learning department before going into our other summer program offerings. So at this time, I would like to introduce Adolfo Herrera, our Administrator for Innovative and Expanded Learning, and Jamie Beidler, our Expanded Learning Coordinator.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. We are excited to share a glimpse of our journey and to highlight the programs, enrichment opportunities, and initiatives that support our students' families currently and into the future. To provide a brief overview, our district has offered 2 programs over the years. CARE is primarily a fee-based program serving students for over 40 years now. Also supports 4 of our ACES awarded sites. ACES, After School Education and Safety Program, is our free after-school program established in OUSD in 2007 and has grown from 18 sites to 18 as of this year. And we are grateful for our strong community partnerships. Most recent, ELOP offers added enrichment, introduced in 2021, has braided these programs together under one department in 2023. Under Dr. Singh's leadership, we are working to streamline systems, align offerings, and strengthen outreach to better serve our students and families. This integration has already shown expanded access, improved opportunities, and created a more cohesive, student-centered system. Our goal remains simple: provide consistent, efficient, high-quality experiences for every student. This includes the core components of our 30 school site enrichment offerings. This spring and into summer, we are excited to launch our base programming across all sites, offering flexible, free enrichment serving TK through 8th grade. Students can explore career education, STEM, sports, and all the arts, all experiences that spark interest and support growth. All programs align with our California Department of Education quality standards, reflecting our commitment to high quality, meaningful learning that fosters student success.
The quality standards of expanded learning in California are the core principles that guide all of our programs, creating a safe, enriching environment for all students. Here they are, referenced on this slide as established by the California Department of Education. It behooves us, the call for us is to make sure that they are in place. So we do need to provide in every single one of our settings a safe and supportive environment, active and engaged learning, skill building, youth voice, and leadership as well. Healthy choices and behaviors, diversity, equity, and access. A tall order. So how do we make sure that this is actually taking place? Well, we rely on something that's embedded in our program, a process which is called the Continuous Quality Improvement, or we call it CQI. This entails a structured method for evaluating and enhancing programs, services, and operations. We'd like to explore now how some of these enhancements are taking place in the following slides.
The first alignment is with safe and supportive environment. We prioritize spaces where students feel secure, respected, and valued, foundational to a positive learning experience. Safety and student support, we have built comprehensive safety plans, counseling and restorative practices for our students, ongoing staff training around quality standards to align with our curriculum and lesson planning, crisis prevention intervention training to support classroom management and inclusiveness, positive behavioral intervention support training to mirror the school day. And we have purchased communication tools for safety such as walkie-talkies, Raptor visitor management systems for after hours. And for active and engaged learning and skill building, we provide hands-on interactive experiences that are student-centered with focus not only academic, but also life skills that support success beyond the classroom. Moving into 4, 5, and 6, we promote youth voice and leadership by empowering students to share their ideas, build confidence, take initiative. This includes lunchtime engagement opportunities, and we are building an ongoing calendar developed with our community partners and community leads to ensure consistent student input. Equity, inclusion, and promoting healthy choices remain central to our mission, ensuring all students have access to meaningful opportunities. These 6 elements guide our continuous quality improvement process, helping us maintain high standards and respond to student needs. In the next slides, we will highlight community feedback gathered since January.
Since joining the Student Support and Community Engagement Department, our community outreach efforts continue to grow and are ongoing. This slide represents our outreach roadmap since January of this year. We attended and presented at the PTA Council meeting, Community Schools meeting, released a feedback survey. We post on our website, are included in principal newsletters, utilize multi-language flyers, and are moving to utilize Parent Square for communication across the entire district. And we'd like to focus a little bit on the survey that we did launch, the date that we did launch, it was January 28th. As you look at this pie chart, I'm going to move away from my notes. We really focused on making sure that it wasn't just an electronic survey, but we also released a paper copy too, because we wanted to input that feedback as well. We asked many questions, but I think one of the most important ones that we did ask is your student enjoying the enrichment opportunities provided? As you look at the pie chart there, we've got 79.1 answered yes. 12.6 answered sometimes, because sometimes they do have to go to tutoring. You know, if you look at the slivers, you'll see that the no is kind of, it's there, but it's not that apparent. Some of the results that we received, some of the positive things that we received is obviously that we are providing a lot of great enrichment, but also there's some concern about maybe you could open up a lot more. So we want to do, I want to go on to the next slide. Yeah, I know, I'm going to move on. We had a section where we asked parents to go ahead and share their comments with us. And as you look, I'll give you a second to kind of look at that. Very positive. We were very happy to see so many wonderful comments. My favorite is, it's been amazing for my kiddos to be able to get these additional experiences, which I think is one of the reasons why we really, really love the work that we do. If you look at the far left on the goldenrod section right there's a little cloud that says, classes just fill up so fast and certain activities aren't offered for certain grades. We're always on top of that, and we always look to see where we can build more. So what we do through our strategic program plan is we are committed to expanding these programs to meet the needs of our community, our sites, and most importantly, our scholars. Now we'd like to highlight some of the enhancements we are currently adding to OUSD's expanded learning program.
As part of our enhancements, along with our base programming, we are incorporating TK through 8 career education at all locations. All of our staff have had a professional development on the RIASEC model to include opportunities for our students to learn more about themselves, explore their interests, and to support students' pathway choices into middle school and high school. whether they identify their passion in potential careers that are realistic, investigative, artistic, enterprising, or conventional. We are also incorporating, and we are very excited about our new field trips scheduled for spring and summer in collaboration with various organizations. We want to highlight that this is another enhancement we have recently added to our comprehensive plan. A few examples include partnering with Jasper Ray Foundation, connecting students to water safety and swim lessons through the Aqua Tots of Orange, the Friendly Center to expand access to enriching opportunities, including STEM programming. Students will also have a field trip to Chapman University's Hilbert Museum, among many others this summer. ELOP has also sponsored a wide range of enriching activities in the arts, including culinary, which is our most popular class, along with painting, drawing, dance, and musical theater. We are also very thrilled to announce another enhancement to our department, which is the launch of intramural sports, tournaments, skill clinics, color guard for middle school, and we do this at elementary as well, all designed to create exposure and experience for high school opportunities to come.
Many of the enhancements that Jamie has just mentioned are first-year activities. This is the first year we're actually launching. We began the school year with 183 course offerings back in August. This has expanded to 626 currently for spring. As of Friday, we have 12,520 OUSD students enrolled in at least one expanded learning course. None of this could be done by ourselves. We have great partnerships in the community with many community-based organizations, and we have OUSD staff that have been supporting us, certificated and classified, since the onset of the programming. When we first started in 2022, we collaborated with 6 community-based organizations. Since then, we've grown to 24. We're significantly enhancing enrichment opportunities for our students. We are also actively working to establish even more partnerships. And now we'd like to share with you what we have planned for summer enrichment.
This summer, you will see a rich array of community partners supporting our offerings and field trips, an exciting new addition this year. Our base programming will include that career education continuum. Our weekly theme will be our CTE pathways, including our CTE pathways. Arts, physical fitness, health, social emotional learning, and learning field trips. This structure ensures a well-rounded experience that engages students in multiple areas, growth, and exploration. Here are some options to register for our upcoming spring and summer programs. We always encourage the community to contact us directly with any questions or support, no matter how small. We are happy to help. Our next steps in our strategic plan. We want to expand enrichment. We are committed to the continued growth of the innovative, engaging enrichment opportunities that inspire curiosity, creativity, and confidence in every student. Expand learning through a robust attendance recovery program. We aim to help students recapture lost learning, strengthen foundational skills, and to support their educational growth. Expand safety and support. We are enhancing student safety and access by onboarding dedicated staff to support accommodations and medical needs, ensuring every student can fully participate in our programs. At the heart of these initiatives are our extraordinary office staff that make it all happen behind the scenes, our frontline educators and community partners. As Board Trustee President Dr. Glass has shared in the past, these team members are the unsung heroes of expanded learning. Day after day, they plan and deliver enrichment, teach social skills, care for student well-being, and cultivate meaningful relationships with families over the years of service, sometimes up to 7 years in our programs. Staff come to know student stories and provide the consistent support that helps them thrive. We have countless stories throughout the years where expanded learning has played a pivotal role in students' progression, well-being, and overall success. You had a few speakers just this evening. These examples remind us why this work matters and the profound impact it has on children's lives. I would like to close this portion of our presentation with this. Our commitment in expanded learning is unwavering. Every child deserves the opportunity to be served and supported. By intentionally collaborating with parents, community partners, and community schools, our mission is to ensure that every voice is heard in shaping our programs. Together with a clear and shared vision, we are driving toward a future where all students can grow and succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our expanded learning team for that overview and for the incredible work happening across our schools. At this time, I'd like to transition to share additional summer programming opportunities that extend beyond expanded learning and support our students in a variety of ways across the district. The Special Education Department will be hosting Extended School Year for students with disabilities whose IEPs include this service. Elementary Extended School Year programs will be hosted at Prospect and Cambridge Elementary Schools. Cambridge will also host our Orange Pre-K students. These programs will run from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Our 7th through 12th grade and Adult Transition Program Extended School Year classes will be hosted at Villa Park High School. Canyon Hills students will be hosted at Canyon High School, while the Canyon Hills School receives some maintenance work. And these two programs, the Villa Park High School program and the Canyon Hills program, will run from 8:30 to 12:30. And the intent of this is really to make sure that students' learning doesn't regress during the summer, that they stay on track with those learning goals and with all that great work that they've done during the year. In addition to the Extended School Year program, the Special Education Department will also be hosting a Pathways to Achievement boot camp at Villa Park High School. Students with disabilities from all of our high schools who are eligible to participate in this program to recoup their learning through district curriculum for grade improvement and credit recovery, to get back on track for graduation and for A through G college readiness. Our high school summer program runs from June 16th through July 23rd across all USD high school sites. So that includes Richland Continuation High School, that includes our Edge Academy. This program provides students with flexible opportunities to recover credits, to stay on graduation and get A through G eligible, and to access select original credit courses. Students can participate both with in-person and online hybrid options, allowing us to meet diverse learning needs while maintaining academic rigor. Additionally, through our partnership with Santiago Canyon College, students can access dual enrollment courses this summer, such as math courses, ASL, American Sign Language, and History of Film, further supporting A through G completion and post-secondary readiness. And those are dual enrollment courses that are actually on our high school campus. In addition to the expanded learning and high school programming, we offer targeted enrichment opportunities at the elementary and middle school levels. Our Mandarin Immersion Summer Program, held at Saravilla Middle School from June 29th through July 24th, provides K-6 dual immersion students with a full-day immersive experience focused on language development in the morning, but culture understanding and global competency in the afternoon as well. At the middle school level, our summer academies that are taking place August 3rd through August 13th at Saravilla and McPherson are designed to support student transition into middle school and to give them more confidence, and to also provide enrichment and strengthen foundational academic skills. These programs play an important role in preparing students for success in the upcoming school year. Then, always a popular one, we are proud to continue our strong partnership with Santiago Canyon College with their Summer College for Kids and Teens program. Running from June 15th through August 13th, this program offers Orange Unified students in grades TK-12 access to a wide range of engaging high-interest courses, both in-person and online options. We offer one free class per student, but space is limited, and information will go out to all families ahead of time so that they know when registration will be available. Course offerings span areas such as STEM, the arts, study skills, athletics, core academic content, and much more. It's helping students to explore interests, to build new skills, and to stay connected to learning throughout the summer. As you can see across all these programs, our focus is on providing meaningful, accessible, and engaging opportunities for every student. Together, these efforts ensure that learning continues beyond the school year and school day, in ways that support achievement, connection, and future readiness. Thank you, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for the presentation. We feel it was very informative, which is the goal, to give us as much information as possible. I'd like to turn this over to my colleagues. Any questions you may have regarding this presentation? Trustee Goodlander.
Thank you. I just have some comments because I'm a parent of ELOP and CARES. And it is very, very popular. It fills up really, really fast. So the parent chat, like, is very active on the days that, like, you know, the new programs are up to register, because otherwise you're waitlisted and you hope to get in. But I think some of the comments that you showed with parent voices on that slide is true, that maybe there are programs available for TK first and second, but maybe they also have an upper grader that would want to do something at the same time, and the programs just don't match all the time. But I think your department has done a really good job of having programs start right after school, so it's an easy transition for students to go from their classrooms to their ELOP program, and then get picked up at 3:30 or 4:30 when their program ends. I also want to add that since the last time, which was probably like 3 or more years ago that you had a presentation, 4 years ago, so many things have improved. And some of the comments that we were talking about 4 years ago, and the things that have changed, are that it's a centralized program for registration, and that you could automatically include a sibling with registration rather than doing a complete form, stopping, and then doing it all over again. That is just one centralized system where you can just click which student you're adding to that class. The other piece as well is that there's a new narrative portion where not only can you click if the student has an IEP or a 504 plan or additional information that the family wants to share, but the narrative piece really allows the parent to share with the CARES team of how to support that student through their time in transitioning from the regular school day to after school, which is a bigger ratio, right? To go from their small classroom to one of maybe 60. And then the other piece that I want to add, and also thank you for, is that for every registration, there's added information to enroll through CHS, so Children's Home Society. And even though you can enroll through CARES through ELOP, that time ends at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock on Wednesdays, which is great and available for many families, but there are also other families that work and need to pick up their children after 5. So just having that option, and everyone that works, you know, the care leads are really good about being able to kind of navigate that for every family if they need to enroll in that in order to receive additional funding to cover the cost of CARES. So I just wanted to start with that because I know that's something that we had talked about a long time ago, and it's all the improvements that I've seen, which makes it more accessible for families to be able to enroll in all these programs.
Thank you. I would like to add, just for the community to know, that we do take Children's Home Society, Orange County Department of Ed, and CalWORKS as subsidized funding as well.
Trustee Vane?
Thank you so much for this. I have been asking, and I am new member to the board, so I didn't see your previous presentation, but I have some questions and comments. I love all of the expanding of intramural sports and opportunities for students with disabilities in particular. And I would maybe at the end of the summer or like us to consider how we might celebrate our community partners. I know we have some mechanism that we're working to celebrate our business partners, but thinking about ways to thank them for their partnership would be great. Something I have been wondering about is my understanding is that some of the enrichment opportunities are offered by companies that we hire. And it's not always clear, I think, to parents that their child is going to not necessarily be with like an OUSD teacher doing this, and maybe this staff has different certifications, or, you know, making that part clear, I guess, to parents, and also really ensuring that that members of the staff that are not educators per se, in the classroom, if you will, have some standards across the board, I guess. I'd like to see, and I know you said that we're doing some training. One question related to the training and these offerings I was wondering is, with the career and college readiness component, there are also kids that don't do any of this, right? And so are they getting some of those lessons as well in the classroom, and thinking about how, I mean, I've seen some of these logos in the schools, but I mean.
Yes, so our career education continuum that she showed back on one of the slides is something that we are implementing, and we're starting to roll out district-wide. So we currently have 2 what we call career-connected schools that do a lot of learning around RIASEC and around personality profiles, career interests, and things about jobs that they might want to participate in when they get older, and to learn more about themselves and their strengths and things that they can build on. We're adding another career-connected school next year, and then we've also trained all of our principals on it, all of our instructional specialists, TOSAs, support staffs, because we're working it into the trainings that we do throughout our district, so that we can support students at not career-connected schools also getting this information. So if you had visited our Olive Avid Showcase, you would have seen we had some posters up of our Avid leadership team, and the posters, the kids explained what their RIASEC letter was, you know, what they were strong in, you know, what their career interests were in the future. So we're starting those career conversations at a young age, because we want to flip the paradigm so that students understand, when students go to college, they pick a college because there's a career that they want to have, and that college has a major that's going to help them get there. So they're not picking a college without knowing that that college has what's going to support them in their career. So yes, across our
I'm really glad to hear that we're expanding that, you know, to additional schools and to our enrichment activities. Another question I had is whether or not, it seems to me that the offerings are different at all the different schools. And given open enrollment, parents talk to one another. So, you know, I might hear that, you know, school X, Y, or Z has pickleball. And then I want to know, why doesn't my kid's school have pickleball? You know, like, is there a consistent, you know, rotation? Or not every school may have, you know, a robotics team, or, which also leads me to say that I'm a little unclear on the difference between a club and one of the enrichment activities, because I know there are clubs, I guess, that teachers might take on, and, you know, that all of the semantics are, I think, a little confusing for parents. And, or like culinary, for example, I think would also be very popular, but I haven't heard of that as an offering, you know, at my own children's school. One thing else I was wondering is, there seems to be an overlap between some CARES and some of the other after-school programs that are consistently there, and then the enrichment opportunities. So you might have a parent paying for CARES, and then they are maybe also have the opportunity to pay for robotics or pay for something else, right? So they're like kind of double paying, and their kid might attend, you know, an enrichment activity for 1 hour during the CARES period, if you will. And I was wondering if we might think about that dynamic a little bit, and parents who might be like twice paying, if you will, in some circumstances for a period of time. And sorry, I have a lot of views. What happens when CARES fills up?
So currently we have a wait list if we fill up, but we're not trying to fill up anymore. We are trying to add more staff, which we have been successful in this last year, as well as we do have ELOP embedded in our program for 3 hours every day, and we are adding community partnerships even to our CARES programs. So like even at...
So in the summer, if there's
all
a
year
wait
long
list,
and into the summer, yes.
So people who get on the wait list in the summer can expect to be accommodated?
We are definitely going to accommodate.
That's happy news. That's phenomenal, right?
Yes.
So yay for that.
We're adding more providers to be able to accommodate those wait lists for the classes as well.
That's great. And so then one question I had is, can a student, if they see something offered differently at another different school, can they register for that? Is that an
So we don't technically have them register for another school, but our new base programming is we're going to offer the core classes rotational throughout every school site. That's what we're starting this spring. We're kind of launching it with a little bit of our career education, and then we're going to go full board this summer and then into the fall. We do like to specialize a little bit of what the principal and the signature practices that are happening at the school site, so we do have some variation in that, but generally we're going to be offering a base program with sports and STEM, robotics. Those pieces are all going to be tied in now at every school site.
Great.
And we're adding more partners for the capacity issue that we're having to take people off those wait lists, because a lot of times we're waiting for our partners to add another instructor as well. So we've also, like culinary being so popular, we're adding another possible
And it's a positive
partner.
problem, right? Like, that's
Very
great.
much so. We are servicing 12,520 students as of April 6th.
It's amazing.
So that's like over half of our school district, which is super exciting. So we're excited for the opportunity to expand and continue to take as many students as we can.
One thing I would like to ask is, for me, I'm a planner, and my kids' sports, right, are certain times of the year and certain seasons. And so ideally, at the beginning of a school year, you know, a parent could know this one is offered in the winter, this one is offered in the spring, or whatever, and they could make that plan accordingly, because many other sorts of activities, right, have some kind of degree of season to them, if you will. And at least for me, I like to coordinate with my kids' friends' parents, you know, and there's a lot of, I think, planning that would be really helpful, just knowing what's available from the beginning of the year. And another question I had, which might also just be a question for the board, but we have extra ELOP funding right now, right? And so are we making a plan for all of this to be sustainable in the future? And, you know,
Can you hear me? I don't know if it's on.
Turn it on, press the button.
There we go. Okay. Great question. ELOP was Governor Gavin Newsom's, that was his project, his baby. We know this is his last year in office. We are hoping that whoever fills in that role will continue to offer the funding. Worst case scenario, I would say that you're always allowed to charge for ACES and ELOP on a sliding scale. We don't. We make it 100% free. It would be taking some planning. We would want to make sure that we continue everything that we built, because again, it also attracts families from other districts. I remember a family calling from Irvine asking about West Orange. That's my school, that's my home school, but I work in Irvine, I take my son to Irvine. If I were to enroll at West Orange, could my son be in the ACES program for free? Absolutely. What do I need to do? Just sign up. You know, so these are important things that we want to maintain. Hopefully we don't get to that stage where we need to, you know, go to a sliding scale, but we'll definitely have some nice backup plans to make sure that we continue to offer excellent enrichment, and everything, all these campaigns and things that we're moving, including with superintendent's goals, will continue to flourish. But like I said, we're we're hoping that the funding continues, because California is like the leader in expanded learning before school, after school, and out of school in the nation. And it's something that we're all very proud of.
I was raised in Idaho.
Oh, sorry. But you're here now.
So I can be clear, is it the case that there are ELOP schools, if you will, and then ELOP students? Because not all schools have programs, at least now, that are fully free, or?
So at our CARES locations, we do offer 3 hours of enrichment for free. So that is part of our Monday through Friday program.
And that's funded through ELOP.
Yeah. And then all of our courses are free at all locations.
For all students.
This is new, though. I know that in the past it
yeah,
wasn't
I'm
like that.
trying
It's
to- okay.
brand new. We were quite
Okay.
stunned when we found out that due to our UPP rate, we became a rate 1 district, which means almost double the money per student. which was like, and I know there was a
Yeah,
knock on
yeah,
my office, like, what are you going to do with all that money? Well, we're gonna get it to the students. Absolutely, we're going to meet all the campaigns, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that every student receives, a very robust enrichment program before school, after school. I'll give you an example. The Jordan students that spoke today, we were not aware, we did not plant them. We were very happy to hear from them because Jordan was one of the schools that came to us early on, a couple years ago, and said, hey, our parents want the whole summer. And can you do that? And I'm like, sure. But let's work with custodial. Let's work with facilities because they have to clean the plant. But we found a way to make it work, and it became something that if any school would like to that's something that we can offer with these additional funds, which is amazing because going to that rate one really does give us a lot more opportunities to do a lot more things.
Our only goal is to prioritize those students that are bringing
Yes,
in
absolutely.
funding, but definitely we've expanded tremendously.
Yes.
So in listening to the presentation and also listening to Trustee Martinez-Goulandler's comments, I was thinking, have you ever played one of those games where it's like, if you start here and you answer this question, then you go over here. And if you answer this question, then you go over here. Maybe it's such that our application could be something like that. What grade is your student in? Okay, where is your site? Okay, now here's the offerings and here, so that it's interactive for parents because there are so many different and unique options. And I would also like to see just like a one-pager, for principals to be able to get out. Like for me, I would envision walking to the office and having a bunch of flyers there, available to the parents, but also, available to be shared on social media and in backpacks, just like very clear, offerings. And finally, I am a community college professor. And so one question I have is since the dual enrollment is coming to us at our school sites, are there OUSD teachers that will be in the room at the same time? Are they co-taught? Is it just the professor that's coming in?
It could be either. So it could be a SCC, a Santiago Canyon College professor teaching the class, or it could be an OUSD teacher who qualifies to teach a community college class through Santiago Canyon College.
Okay.
So that's the way that the
But
summer
not
works.
like co-teaching, if you will.
No,
or,
we have some of that during the school year of dual enrollment
Right.
classes where we have an OUSD teacher in there and a Santiago Canyon College teacher. But in the summer, it's usually just with one teacher in the room.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Before we go over to another board colleague, UPP, unduplicated pupil
Population.
percentage, population.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. For our viewing audience. Colleague comment. Trustee Pelley.
Thank you. And you had such great questions. Everyone who's already asked questions, I don't really have any. I just want to thank you for your hard work. I remember when we started how many years ago was it?
4 years ago.
Okay, yeah. And it was a huge undertaking. I remember working with you guys and it was just new and we really what you guys have done building this up and seeing not just the opportunities of what's available, that's amazing how many different things are available, but the fact that you've really opened up the access for all of our students. The fact that it could be free for everyone is great, but just the things you've done to make sure that everybody does have access to it. And also, the special ed aides and, working with our students with special needs, really making sure that everybody is able to have that enhanced experience because it's a long day for some of those kiddos, especially the little ones. Some of them are dropped off at 7 a.m. and not picked up until 6. Or later. I remember standing at the gate with you sometimes, Adolfo, because we'd be calling, there'd be people not picked up, and you were right there to help. But it's just seeing where we've come from where we started is really impressive, and I just thank you guys because it is so much work. And I also did just want to say thank you for the intramurals especially, and moving that into the middle schools because that was a concern we've heard. And I think I've said it before, but I was an intramural kid. Believe it or not, my 5'1" was not acceptable for a point guard in my second year of high school. But having those intramural programs for kids like me who weren't great at sports but loved them, it's just, that's really, really huge. So just thank you so much. This is really great.
Just one more comment really quick. I was wondering if maybe in the future we could also have a Spanish immersion summer program.
Yes, we've been talking about that, so we will be looking into that for the future.
Trustee Erickson.
No, go for it.
I just have a challenge for them. A couple presentations ago, I think it was the superintendent's presentation where we were looking at data of addressing closing gaps, right? And looking at our test scores, specifically math, of like, what can we do to improve? And I know currently there's a lot of after-school tutoring programs that are a part of ELOP, but I'm hoping that we can kind of modify that of, instead of adding instruction after school, what if we found a provider that could do basketball after school, but had a twist on it where they did geometry, right? So it's like the different angles of like shooting a basketball. That's just one example, but we really need to continue bringing in the hands-on after school, where I know that there's the Legos that adds a lot of academics in it, but kids are going to after school thinking they're playing with Legos, like adding more things like that. And then the bio nerds is like a huge one, right? Like being able to hold NSECs after school is absolutely amazing. So I think that was something that we had been talking about during the superintendent's presentation, about if we could include some of those hands-on activities after school, of just really elevating that.
We actually have an amazing basketball provider. And so he's helping us with our intramural sports, one-on-one basketball. And he's been super supportive of that middle school piece too. So I can definitely make that a point to talk about.
Also, Jamie's been talking to our resource teacher who supports CSTEM. So CSTEM is a way of supporting math instruction through computer programming and robotics. So she's been working with him. Is that a
Yes, we're having
a
3
surprise?
weeks of CSTEM at McPherson this summer through that school. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, who's that provider? The basketball provider?
One-on-one basketball.
One-on-one, okay. I was just curious. Thank you for the presentation. It's so exciting to see. I love seeing all of this. I especially love the field trips. I think that's amazing. That's a great opportunity for our students. The intramural is great. So you weren't in here, but we were talking about some of the ELOP programs before, and I see here the growth from fall of 2025 to spring of 2026. But my question is, and it's still a concern that I had back then, that I raised back then, you talked about the fact that people can use paper surveys and paper applications for this, but that's relatively new because that wasn't happening when we had this conversation a couple years ago, and there was some reluctance to do that. So thank you for doing it. However, when I hear, active parents talking about, the chats, everybody's signing up quickly and there's spaces limited for College for Kids. There's a lot of people that aren't on these chats, they're not parents that have the ability to jump on the computer and do this, and they don't have access to a computer. They have to come into the school and be helped with it or use the paper. So I get concerned when I hear there's limited space, and we're supposed to really be focusing on our UPP. Of this increase in students, what percentage of those are UPP? Are we seeing a huge increase in students that are not UPP, or are we actually grabbing those students and making sure that they're represented well? That's my concern.
So we are currently serving approximately 60% of our UPP population currently, out of that 12,000. We are also...
Not 60% of the 12,000, 60% of the UPP population is included in the 12,000 is what you're saying, right?
No, well, when we break it down, I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know. It's a specific question, and I appreciate that. So if you could get back to me, and I'd like to know if, because there is this incredible increase and it's amazing, But I want to make sure that we are seeing that increase with our UPP.
And we are, I do want you to know too, and the community, that we are working with our community leads. We are actively having a calendar of dates where we're going at lunchtime to participate in schools. Some of our staff this evening were at open houses. We were at Handy and in Yorba this evening. We're starting to really get out and do that outreach in person too with our staff. So that is another way we're doing that. And we also were in person doing surveys with those families. Even though we may have an iPad, paper, we're actively asking them those questions too. And so we're going to continue that. That is not going to end.
So when we say the College for Kids space is limited, what is it limited to? And obviously we don't have transportation to Santiago Canyon College. So I would imagine the number of students that are traditionally underserved or underrepresented probably aren't really going to the College for Kids program.
When we're talking,
or are they?
Yeah, when we're talking to College for Kids, we do get some of our UPP students attending Summer College for Kids, but there are the limitations due to transportation, but also many of the vendors that do the classes at Santiago College, College for Kids, are also vendors that work through our ELOT program.
Okay.
So you're getting similar opportunities there. And yes, there is limited access to Summer College for Kids because of limited ability for funding for it. But what we've tried to do is take a lot of those experiences, or I should say what our expanded learning team has tried to do is take a lot of those experiences of Summer College for Kids and have them at our ELOT programs and our CARES program. And part of the excitement of Summer College for Kids is going to the college campus.
Right, and
But-
that's what exposes them to this world beyond their campus.
Exactly,
Which is
yeah.
important.
Yes.
And one of our partners for ELP is a strong partner at that SEC college campus during the summer, Strategic Kids, and they are actually going to be hosting some of our sites this summer, as well as incorporating enrichment across the sites, so that they are going to get some of that experience on our school sites as
But there's nothing like being
I
on a
know.
college campus.
Okay.
Like
True.
even the students that go to the high school campuses
Yeah.
for their esports or their different STEAM and STEM activities, that's exciting for those elementary students to go to even our high schools, which look like colleges, thanks to Measure Us now. But so I mean, I do want to explore how we can potentially get those students to the college campus, and I don't know if we can, but I would love to at least explore that.
In the past, we have done some field trips with some of our elementary school kids to the college campus, where we've had former Orange Unified students be their tour guides and tour them around the college campus and allow them to see, the library and some classrooms and different spaces and eat lunch there. So that is something that we could look into further if that interests the board.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add more to what you shared? They do a really good job with communication. So they send an email reminder of like, this will eventually open up like a month ahead. And then they send emails almost weekly. So whenever it opens up, like that's not the first time that families are aware that they can enroll, that there is that awareness beforehand leading up to when registration's open. The texting is for those that are too busy to remember that that's when it's open.
No, and I appreciate that, but I think there's I think the problem was a lot of those parents didn't have access to computers, so they're not getting those emails.
That was the
so
issue
are they
before.
getting? So that's my concern, and I get that, and I know you're doing everything. I'm not minimizing what you're doing because I know it's a lot, and I appreciate that. And obviously, the increase in participation reflects that. But I do still want to make sure that we're really focused on giving experiences that everybody else, all of these other students get. These students that haven't had those experiences can have them, because that's what inspires them to, push farther. And I mean, I know I was one of those kids. I mean, I didn't see a college campus when I was young. I mean, I didn't know those things existed. And when you do see it, and when they see it for the first time, it's exciting and it's thrilling. And so I want to just expose as many students as possible to that. So a lot of our students are exposed to that all the time. I mean, by the time my kids came around, they've been on a million college campuses, right? And we did all the tours. Different scenario than, that sort of first generation.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Sorry, I know, sorry, Dr. Glass, you're never going to have a chance to talk. I just wanted to clarify. You guys you send out a school messenger, a text or a message before also to let parents know
For
when-
Summer College for Kids?
For all of the ELOP, everything just that's coming up?
We're
Yes.
really looking forward to Parent Square. We can't wait. When I was
Yeah,
a
I'm
principal,
sure.
We
School
all are.
messenger
let me
is
tell you,
not the, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's going to be great because as a principal, I know that I loved it. Some, like you mentioned, Trustee Erickson, not everyone's online. Not everyone has access to a computer. But they will get a text message, and that will let them know. And you can add a PDF to that text message that'll say, it's opening up, you've got priority to enroll, here you go. So we've been like, when can we have it? When can we have
School
it?
messenger does that as well, but it's, I know, it's tedious, but just,
And I
just,
remember
you know,
that too.
there are
Yes,
ways, so thank you for
absolutely.
keeping that open, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Dr. Glass, I'm gonna give you permission now to speak.
Thank you so much. Trustee Thomas.
Thank you. I'll be really fast. Thank you so much for this presentation. Awesome programs. I think I get most questions about CARES. And I was thinking it's from parents, but it's from grandparents that are my age. But anyway, I was just going to say and highlight, I am so pleased to see that there is American Sign Language in here. My dear friend from kindergarten up here at Orange Unified is American Sign Language teacher at Corona Del Mar High School. So I'm surprised I don't do sign language. But anyway, that's amazing. And Parent Square is also amazing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, quickly. So to piggyback on what Trustee Vane had mentioned with regards to a Spanish immersion, it kind of relates, but I was looking at the challenge that Trustee Martinez-Gonzalez gave. We'd love to have something that attaches the summer program to maybe an internship for students. Maybe not everybody, maybe secondary, to kind of get them into that mode. But then also, I was thinking about it from the point of view of a wheel. I know you're familiar with the wheel. So the idea is giving students an opportunity to kind of just experience a couple of different things. I'm looking specifically to CTE so that we can get them prepared for maybe an opportunity in the high school environment as a challenge, you know, just to see if it's something that we can do. Because there's not enough room in their schedules during the regular school year. And if they were able to make that selection, I know at Elmo, they have the construction program. It would be awesome to get them to be aware of it in 7th, 8th grade, and they can make those decisions. I will also say that my boys are at Yorba, and they've taken full advantage of CARES. My daughter's been at Palmyra forever, so she's done YCO. So shout out to YCO as well. So thank you for the opportunities for the ELOP, and all this presentation's been fantastic as well. Any other questions? Trustee Vane.
Sorry. As my other fellow trustees were talking, I came up with a few other things to share. One, I would like to reiterate the internships idea. That is so cool. And even 10 hours a week or something. I know when I was in high school, my parents were like, how can we get you out of bed? And just if you had something, 9 o'clock, like for a couple hours, I think that would be really helpful in all kinds of different areas. And we could expand our community partners that way. And along those lines, I'm not sure how to facilitate this, but I will throw that out there, research projects. Because my understanding of college admissions is having experience in research, it really can offer one a leg up. And they may not have time during this normal school day to really dive deep into something that might be passionate about. Also, I noticed the QR code, so I appreciate that. And I would love, just personally, to see the catalog of all of the college courses in advance, not just like, here's a reminder that this is happening, but here's the full list and all the times and all the days and weeks and all of that, well in advance. Because I have tried to even just go to the college's website and look up their schedule of classes to find out what's going on. And my last idea that I will just throw out there, maybe you could get Santiago Canyon College or Santa Ana College to provide some of our students with some swag, like bumper stickers or, those keychain things, because, my littles love any swag from any older situation that they would encounter. So I'll throw that out there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much for your presentation, and we will conclude this meeting at 7:47 p.m.